everyone, and welcome to Rosie's Rules Appy Hour, presented by WFSU Public Media. We are so excited that you're here with us today. Next slide, Grace. So just so everyone knows, if you're with us live on this, you are giving us authorization to use your physical likeness, voice, etc. If you do not want to be shown, just make sure that your settings on Zoom reflect that. So you're hiding your camera and turning off your microphone. Next. So here we are. Not all of us are here today, but recording this on our social media is Cassidy and Grace and Lauren. And I'm Tasha, and I will be leading. You'll probably hear from me the most today, but sometimes we also have Roshana and Leah joining us.
We have people watching it from the Instagram right now. So
woo-hoo! Yeah. I love that. Thank you. And welcome everyone. We're glad you joined us. So I'm sure you're all wondering, what is an Appy Hour? So Appy Hours are our way of sharing out about new content that comes to PBS Kids and giving you the backstage tour of what's coming, why it's coming, and all of that great kind of stuff. So if you have questions, put them in the chat and Cassidy will let us know and we'll share those. We're very informal and we're just super excited to share with you today about Rosie's Rules, which will air on PBS Kids October 3rd. And there's so much more. So let's jump in and go to the next slide, Grace. Here she is. Meet Rosie and her adorable white cat. And if there's any cat people out there, let us know. I live with 4. They definitely rule me, and they might even make an appearance during this. So we'll see what happens. But Rosie is learning the rules of the world, one preschool cat astrophe at a time. And let's just listen to the theme song.
Rosie has a lot that she wants to know. Can you mail a cat to your abuela's house in Mexico? How do stores get food? Can you pogo stick to the moon? She's got a lot to learn, and when she does, the Rosie's rules. Hey! Well, that's new information. She will always figure it out. So much to cheer about for Rosie's Rules.
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 Excellent. We also want to point out that we have a brand new PBS Kids logo. I don't know if anyone has realized, oh, wait a minute, there's not the green dot or dash. They're still part of the PBS Kids family, but this is the new look and you'll be seeing it actually for the first time with this show. It's all been with the new branding and little by little other things will be moved over to the new branding too. So we're pretty excited about it. Next slide, Grace. So this animated preschool comedy series follows the adventures of Rosie Fuentes. She is an inquisitive and hilarious 5-year-old girl who's starting to learn about the wow, amazing world beyond her family's walls. And she's ready to learn it all. And she's figuring it out herself. So one of the things, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, is that Rosie's really fun. And we're wondering, what makes your kids laugh? So my kids are older now, so they laugh at all kinds of like animal things. It's probably their favorite thing, is they find things like funny things that animals do, and they think it's a riot. Lauren, have you got a kid's story for what makes your kids laugh?
Yes, so it's kind of similar to what you said, but something that I was thinking was the little boy that I will nanny frequently. He has this yellow lab and he just does the craziest things. And even yesterday, he was just cracking up laughing at his dog just running around the yard, and he thought it was the funniest thing.
That's adorable. Cassidy, do you have one?
I just remember that when we had the event over the summer with the Wildcrats show, the kids were dying anytime one of the characters got hurt. People falling down or hitting their thumbs with hammers, and they just thought it was so funny.
I think it's really cool how kids at different ages, they find things funny that's different, right? Like, so somebody, when they get older, they may not think someone getting hurt is as funny. Although some of us do, because there's been a lot of comedies like that with that kind of slapstick stuff.
America's Funniest Home Videos, about half the videos are injuries.
Yeah.
There's
So
some
true.
good comedy.
But as a mom, I'm like, but people think it's real funny.
Yeah.
Well, I love the things that make Rosie's and her friends laugh too. So there's a lot of adventures coming up when you watch the show. Let's move to the next slide. One of the very important pieces, and one of the reasons why Rosie was created, has to do with computational thinking. And some of you might be wondering, computational thinking, that sounds kind of complicated, but it's actually quite simple, and it's something we all do every day. And we can help children build their computational thinking skills in so many ways, not just at home, but in school as well. So an example of computational thinking for me is that every day I get up and I have to feed my cats. And of course, they do remind me loudly that they need to be fed, but I have a whole system of going in and calling them and getting the food, pulling out their bowls, and talking to them while I'm doing that. So that's just like step-by-step of how I feed my cats. Who else has a step-by-step computational thinking thing that they do at home during the day?
One thing that I do that is computational thinking is cooking and baking and using all kinds of fractions and converting measurements and trying to make your recipe. So
I love that, Lauren. What's one thing that you've made recently?
one thing that I made recently was some homemade chocolate chip cookies.
Yum. That sounds so
Visiting some
good.
time.
Were they delicious?
They were so good right out of the oven. They were delicious.
That is awesome. I think anything with melty chocolate is the best. That's great. What are some ways that computational thinking could be used in a classroom?
I think with the classroom, just routines, establishing that for kids and having structure, like something as simple as when they walk in the door that day, they know exactly where to put their backpack and when to sit and where to turn their homework in.
And why do you think it's important for children to learn about computational thinking? Cassidy, do you have an idea?
Yeah, I think it's important to learn systems, kind of twofold. I think routines and systems help kids have a sense of order, like that the world is not just happening to you or willy-nilly. It kind of like instills a sense of, I can know this and have a little bit of sense of agency or control. Well, I was just thinking while Grace was saying that, I also found in my classroom that it was helpful to have class jobs. So there were things that everybody did every day, but then there were jobs that they had personally, and they had little steps that they did with that particular job that they had to think through and kind of take personal responsibility of that. And they had ownership over that job, but also knew that they were contributing to the overall class by having that role.
You brought up so many good important points with that. I think one of the first things is, of course, as adults, we need those computational skills to do anything. You know, taking care of other people, making sure nutrition and resting and playtime and vacations, like it all requires planning. And those are the skills that we can start working on with children very, very early. So those expectations are just familiar. Kids already know I have to do step by step and I have to plan ahead. And that is only going to make them even more able to do the jobs of the future and to help around the house and with their teachers, because we all need help every day, all the time.
My papers would not have gotten sorted without my kids.
See that, I know, so many small jobs and they're so important. I love that one. Next slide, Grace. So this is a little idea. If you have a piece of paper near you, and you could do this after this presentation as well, is think about a dream that you might have that you want to accomplish, whether it's buying a new car or taking a family trip or even trying a new recipe. Work with your children, talk about that big ambitious thing that you're going to do, and then break it into goals. So start breaking down the computational thinking that needs to take place for that event to happen. Then you can break those goals into smaller steps, like you see there down the little grid graph with the different shades. And then the last step, of course, is to take it one step at a time. Lauren, when you were making your recipe for chocolate chip cookies, what's the very first thing that you had to do? Your first step?
The first thing I did was I read the recipe and read it all, so I didn't miss anything.
Excellent. That's a perfect first step. What was the very last thing that you did?
Well, the very last thing was I ate the chocolate chip.
Right? You got the reward from doing
Yeah.
all those computational thinking steps. And yes, we've already decided Laura needs to make us some chocolate chip cookies and bring them to the office. And then that will be the concluding thing is
Yeah.
we get to share it. That's wonderful. Let's look at the next slide and watch Rosie talk to us about camping.
Coming to PBS Kids in October.
We're going camping. It's my first ever camping trip, and yours too. Ooh. What camping? It's when you sleep in a tent, and you have a campfire, and I wonder what else you do. I gotta know. I have a great big question, and I just can't let it go. You'll get us some bad love. I really gotta know. What will we do on our camping trip? Maybe I'll build a treehouse where we'll sleep so happily. Eat s'mores with a bear underneath the canopy. I'll sail on a hot dog that's also a boat and splash in the lake with a drum playing goat. A goat that plays drums would be super-tastical.
Rosie's Rules, a brand new show streaming free Monday, October 3rd on PBS Kids.
So Rosie has a lot of big ideas about this camping trip that she is about to take.
Coming.
Sorry.
Before we learn about, well, we talk about Rosie's camping, I'm wondering how many of you have been camping before? Raise your hand. Send us an emoji thing on if you're watching us on social media. Let's see. Grace, tell us about your camping trip.
So I only went camping one time, and my expectations for it was, oh, this is just going to be easy. I just have to go bring a bottle of water, some food, and it'll be good. And it was not that. I was so thirsty after my bottle of water was done, and the people we were with didn't set up our tent right, and it rained, and so we got rained on, and it was fun memory now, but in the moment I was like, there was so much stuff that I could have prepared better for that we didn't, because I didn't know. My expectations were different than what happened. So
Grace, if you were being asked to put together a camping expedition, knowing that computational thinking would be a really great idea to make plans for this, what do you think you might start with?
So kind of like the graph that you showed with the big idea and then breaking it down into steps. So the big idea being we're going to go camping. So what do we need to do to prepare for camping? What does that look like? How is camping in the woods different from you sleeping in your house? What things do we need to eat, or what might dinner look like? So I think teaching it in the way of, okay, so the big idea is camping, and then we're going to break it down into smaller steps and then more steps of what we need to do. So even preparing for, we have food, how do we dispose of the food? You have water, but there's no water fountain, so we need to pack a lot of water, and or how to set up a tent. Let's watch some videos about that before we do it, or practice before.
That's excellent. I'm wondering, we heard, what are some of the grand ideas that Rosie is thinking about her trip?
I think she's gonna be floating on a hot dog down the river.
Right. So she's expecting some kind of a boat ride and hot dogs. What else was there?
S'mores with a bear.
S'mores with a bear. And I think she thought too that they were going to be in a tree house. Somehow that was going to just happen. So knowing that our kids often have these really unrealistic expectations presents an opportunity, because you might not be able to float down the river on a hot dog, but what you can do is, what could you do?
Pack some hot dogs.
Have some hot dogs. Absolutely. You can have hot dogs for one of the meals. And you might even be able to do some kind of fun thing on the water. Maybe you can't rent boats or bring a boat, but you could maybe bring some things that you could try to see what floats and what doesn't, because your access to water. Who knows? But there's little bits and pieces of kids' dreams that can be incorporated to trips if you know about them in advance. And planning and discussing is all part of that wonderful space that allows things to be even better because you had a chance to visit about them and plan. Oh, I know. Cassidy, will you read all of the folks that are in the family?
Sure, we will learn here the Fuentastic family. We have Tia Margarita, Abuela, Javi, Iggy, Gatita, Rosie, Crystal, Mom, and Papa.
Wonderful. And Cassidy, what is an abuela?
Abuela is a grandmother.
Excellent.
So Rosie's family is blended. As you can see here, her dad is from Mexico and her mom is from Wisconsin.
I think so. I think
Yes.
it's definitely from the Midwest.
So I assume Tia is aunt. So Aunt Margarita and Abuela, I assume, are from dad's side.
And we also know, just because we have the inside scoop on things, is that Crystal is a half sister.
Okay.
So there's other family and everyone's been blended together. And of course, gatita, which means kitten in Spanish. So cute. Next slide, please, Grace. Not only does Rosie have this amazing family that lives with her, but she has all these other friends from their neighborhood and the places that they go. Let's see. Lauren, will you read everybody?
Sure. So we have Maya, Baker Calvin, Uncle Steve, Mrs. and Mr. Liu, twins June and Quinn, Lily, and Vero.
Awesome. And I love having this kind of diversity because we can see ourselves in it. And children, your children will be able to watch this and they might think, oh, that looks like my teacher. That looks like my friend. That looks like our neighbor down the street or somebody that's in my swimming class. There's all different ways. And the more connections that we bring, it just expands their foundational understanding of the world around them and the different people that children are going to interact with throughout their lives. Next slide. So the 3 C's of Rosie's rules. As with every single PBS Kids program, it starts with curriculum and it starts with the standards of learning. Rosie has an overlay too of culture and of course, comedy. Let's look at the curriculum. In this program that's for preschool, it's going to talk about civics and government, history, and not just from where Rosie lives in Texas, but where her grandmother is, where her grandmother travels, and other people around her. You can see there's a lot of like little postcards there. It gives you a clue about some of the geography that we'll be learning about with this program, and also economics, which it might sound strange to have preschoolers really delve into these kinds of topics. But again, this is where we're building those foundational knowledge tools, because they may not get more than a quarter, or they'll find a penny on the street. But with the things that Rosie's introducing, it's going to expand their understanding of, oh, if I have a penny now and I find 4 more, or my family gives me one, they're going to realize, oh, that turns into 5 cents. Or if I build this, it could be even more if I have a piggy bank. There's so many great little things that are built into the program that will help children expand their understanding of the world around them. Next slide.
So these are a little sneak peek of some of the episodes that Rosie's Rules is going to have in the first season. And one of those is the beach day. Rosie and her family go to the beach. And one of the takeaways is that trading isn't just swapping things, but you can also trade by doing actions too. And are there any examples that we can think of that are trading actions and not just things and goods?
I've got an idea, Lauren. I was just visiting a friend of mine, and she is a massage therapist, and she works at a salon that does hair and nails and all kinds of beauty things. And she can offer her coworkers a massage in exchange for getting her nails done, which I think is so cool.
Oh, that's a nice
That is
trade.
It is. It is. Does anybody else have one that's maybe more kid oriented?
Mhm.
All right, I won't.
Kind of the concept of chores.
Oh, that's true, that you can swap out chores with your, yup.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great one, Cassie. I'm also thinking about, and all of you that have boys out there, you know, and girls too, but Pokemon cards, they were a big deal when my son was
Ooh.
little. And just like any kind of small thing that they had, they were always looking for ways they could get different characters, or just that whole world, whatever thing they like to collect.
I had all of them.
Lauren, you want to read one of the others too?
So the next one is Sister Surprise. And this takeaway is that you can be more than one thing in your family. So what do we think that means?
Grace, I know you have sisters. What do you think this might mean for you?
I guess because I don't know what this episode is about, but this automatically makes me think of like maybe a character trait or like a career based thing. So if it's with kids, it probably would be more character trait based of, oh, like one of my sisters is really practical. Like she's really good at making lists and doing things and checking them off. And so I think for me, it's like it's easy to compare yourself to like your sibling, or if you're not that way. And so it's probably what I think about this is like celebrating, like, how do you do things differently? And what ways can we like celebrate that? Even though it's the same task could get done, it could be done in like a different way. And so you could be more than one thing, or you can have different qualities that you might have that your sibling might not have, or vice versa.
That's awesome.
That's excellent. How about you, Cassidy, with your brother? Do you have any, how do you interpret that you can be more than one thing in your family?
I saw it more as like, okay, like with my brother, I am his sister, but then I'm also now an aunt because he has a baby.
Oh, I
So
love that.
you have like different roles depending on your relationship to different people within the family.
That's true. There's so many different ways to look at it. I always think too, you know, we just think about ourselves, like me, and I'm a mom, but I'm also, you know, I work at WFSU, so that's part of what I have too. So there are so many ways that we can look at that you might also learn something new about a family member that even you lived with them your whole lives, and then you discover, oh my goodness, I didn't know that you love tacos so much, that kind of stuff. And then there's one more.
All right, last one is called Lights Out Rosie. And this episode is about how before electricity, people played in different ways than we do today. So they had to get creative of what kind of games they played and how we can do that now.
Is a great one too, because I know, given a choice, my kids are on their devices, right? We're on our devices right now watching this. But we also know occasionally we have power outages and we have hurricanes, and it's always great to have a whole bunch of other things too to play and engage with that don't require any technology or electricity. Are there any things that you guys do that don't require electricity?
My family loves board games. Anytime I am home, whether it's on a trip or just staying at home for the night, like we are playing a card game, a board game, some kind of thing that is not a show, not on your phone. And it's always fun. We have lots of games to choose from.
I love that one. Thank you, Lauren, for sharing that. Let's look at the next slide. You know what we have? I love this picture. So we know that Rosie has a blended family, but what else? Just looking at this one lovely picture of their kitchen, what can we tell about the family? What do we know just from the items that they're using every day?
We know that they like to cook because we see a lot of dishes in this washed in the sink, and we see some tortilla basket and a guacamole masher, whatever the official title of that is, over there, and a bowl of cereal. So we know that the family likes to cook.
And
Cassidy, did you see anything else? Oh, go ahead, Lauren.
I was just gonna say that you can see that they have some young children by the drawings on their fridge that they have hung up.
That's right. And there's also some step stools. So the children are probably helping with what's going on in the kitchen too. Cassie, did you think of anything else?
Yeah, just that all of the ceramics in the house have that kind of colorful, floral, like with her dad being Mexican, it's like that kind of cultural flair to the.
Oh, I love that cultural flair. Love it. Yeah, it is. It's very festive and welcoming. I love too that we can see Gadita is very well treated. There's her 2 bowls for water and food, and that it's set for a table of 4. So we can see that they're eating meals together, and there's 4 of them at the table. But it also looks like there'd be room for more chairs to come on, so other people would be welcome at their table. It's really sweet.
Oh.
And the next one. With Abuela, the grandmother, she does a lot of traveling, which brings in, again, our geography. And you can see some of the wonderful places that she has been. It looks like she has a traveling companion too. Anyone want to guess where Abuela has been from these pictures?
I think that's Mexico City.
I think you're right. I think she does live in Mexico City. But it does look like, I don't know if they have, like what kind of trees they have there, but I see a palm tree in one of them, and it looks like a lot of fun. Looks like it's a busy city, but there's also a lot of nature areas too.
I want to go eat at that restaurant, whatever it is.
Yeah, with Tia Margarita.
Great. Let's look at the next one. Grace, do you want to share a little bit about some of the background of the writers that went into this, the making of?
Yeah.
Rosie?
So Maria Escobedo is a story editor, and it looked like she worked on Elena of Avalor, Madagascar, Nina's World, and Grey's Anatomy. So she said, I love channeling Rosie's point of view of the world, especially when she's brainstorming with her cousin Javi to solve a problem. Although they are the same age and like a lot of the same things, they have hilariously different personalities.
So fun.
And then Diego Garcia, it was a script coordinator, and he says, my favorite part of the show is brainstorming hilarious and heartwarming stories, coming up with silly jokes, and laughing at the whimsical things that Rosie and her family are up to. It brings up my inner child. And then Yesenia Ruiz, I think I said that right, is my favorite. She's a freelance writer and she worked on Good Witch, Wild Help, and Lonely Haunts Club. She says that my favorite moments are talking about how we celebrated holidays when we were kids, like Noche Buena and Dia de los Muertos.
I love that. And the thing with the folks that are involved in any production for PBS Kids, the shows are not only built for children to love the characters and to learn from the characters, but they also are for adults so that the family can watch together and learn together and engage with what's happening and extend the learning beyond the episode. So if they're celebrating Dia de los Muertos, you can turn off that episode when it's finished and you can go to the kitchen and you can make something that is a traditional dish for Dia de los Muertos. So many different ways you can take each episode into hands-on learning and growing. Thank you, Grace. Also, excuse me, with any program, regardless of it's PBS Kids or PBS or even NPR, there is a group of advisors that are brought in to make sure that all of our content is diverse, equitable, and inclusive. And these are just two of the companies that have done this work particular to Rosie's rules, so that everyone that's engaging with it feels like they can see themselves in each scene and be a part of this joy and the learning. Next. And of course, she is adorable and very funny. So let's have a quick look at that. So Rosie has some pretty interesting ideas about the world around her. And Cassidy, will you read the first two? Oh, you're muted.
Whoops. Okay. You can definitely mail a cat, and mom's name is Mom.
I know, right? I probably thought my mom's name was Mom too until I was a little bit older. But that's pretty crazy about mailing a cat. That would be interesting. Lauren, will you read the next two?
Sure. So she also is under the impression that everyone has a papa from Mexico, and recycling is all about bicycles.
I can't wait to watch that.
Yeah.
That one about recycling is all bicycles, because obviously something happened with the bicycles. That will be a fun one to visit. Grace, you want to read the next two?
Sure. It says that mail travels by wizards and that food appears in the refrigerator by itself. And then I'll read the last one too. It says that dragons can be pets.
Thank you. I would love for food to magically appear in my refrigerator. I'm trying to think if I could have any food magically appearing in the refrigerator. That's a tough one. Maybe apples.
I was thinking cheesecake. You went a little healthier version.
Yeah.
So that on its own is a really fun thing to think about and talk about with your children. Like, what would be their favorite food? I know for my son, it would probably be spaghetti. And for my daughter, it would be chicken nuggets.
Yes.
So it would be silly, and the drawings that could come out of that too, using their imagination for what that might look like. Next slide. Oh, okay. We're not quite there yet. We'll flip to the next slide. All right. So not only do we have episodes of each show, but we have a lot of digital assets too. So they include games and activities, and of course videos, and all of these will be on demand through the video app and the app, the game app, and on pbskids.org. We'll look at a few of those things a little bit closer in the next slide. We can't wait for this one, Slime Store. So it's a virtual game, and children will make custom slime orders with Rosie. There's a stock slime inventory. They'll handle currency, and they'll buy and trade for supplies. And they're going to learn about economics right here with slime. And the next one is neighborhood helper. We love this one too, because we are all involved here at WFSU in a learning neighborhood with our Ready to Learn grant work. So we will be piloting different things about neighborhoods and world of work, in addition to everyday literacy and computational thinking. So this is going to be another great game for kids to play and learn about their neighborhood and the things they have in common with Rosie. And there's more. We'll soon have a standee with Rosie featured on it, so children can take their pictures with Rosie. And even more, next slide, there are coloring sheets, there are masks, and paper dolls. And there is a whole site specifically for parents. So beyond what we're doing today, there's questions and answers with the creators. There's a lot of handling big emotions that Rosie experiences throughout each episode, and she's got a flop strategy that you'll just have to tune in for to see how that works. There's crafts and recipes. Can't wait for cheesy popcorn. That's going to be happening probably during one of our workshops in person. And then again, printables, family tree activities, bedtime routines, and postcards. And on PBS Learning Media, even more. If you're an educator or you're working with a group of children, there is going to be a Rosie's Rules collection with additional learning goals that are aligned to curriculum. And of course, the whole collection launches October 3rd along with the program. And different bits of the program will be broken down into media clips with lesson plans, and also have those storytelling puppets and printables. And also, all of the materials are not only available in English, but in Spanish too. Here's a sample. This is one of the worksheets about Crystal's new bunny. Crystal is her half sister, and she's going to be caring for pets. In addition, there are worksheets about routines, Iggy's bedtime, Rosie's Seashell Museum, which is about trade and service, which we could certainly do here in Florida, since we all make visits to the beach. Rosie's Nature Adventure is about water, and Sister Surprise with relationships. And more will be added. All this is just in this first season. There are also values embedded into each episode as well. And here's just a few of those. So Mom's Snowy Day talks about the weather and seasons. The camping that we just saw a little bit about is tools, how tools can help us and make our lives easier. And also the Great Crystallini is about different tasks, like Cassidy was talking about in the classroom, assigning different jobs and taking small steps to make sure those things happen in a way that kids can process and easily do them step by step. And then just overall values is explored in the Funhouse. And next. So here's just a quick look at our schedule and where Rosie's Rules will be airing on WFSU. Will come right after Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, and then it is right after then Rosie's Rules, and then it's Don Quixote, and then again in the afternoon at 2 o'clock. And then for our 24/7 station, that schedule's on the next slide. You can see that these are all the programs that are on 24/7 that you can access through WFSU.org or on the PBS Kids streaming video app. And next, so that wraps up our introduction to Rosie's Rules. We do have a workshop that we'll have next week on the 22nd. So please sign up on Eventbrite. You can find us on Facebook or on Instagram, and the link to that RSVP is there. We're super proud that we just launched the Symphony Safari with the Tallahassee Symphony Orchestra. All of those resources will also be streaming, and they'll be on the Tallahassee Symphony Orchestra website and also in our social media. The U.S. and the Holocaust is a brand new documentary that Ken Burns and Lynn Novak have created. It will be aired on October 6th at 6:30. We're doing a screening with the Challenger Learning Center. And then, of course, our annual Halloween, and details for that will be coming up in the next week or two. For those of you that would like a sneak peek at the first episode of Rosie's Rules, please stay with us and we will be sharing that out. It is episode 101, Abuela's Birthday Cat Mail. You'll have to join the Zoom link and able to take part of watching this. So Cassidy's going to put that link in the chat box and we'll get that started for you. And we're just so delighted that you joined us today and we hope you love Rosie's Rules. Reach out to us. We are expecting some Rosie's Rules puzzles to share. So if you would like some, please send us an email and let us know. Thanks so much. Bye.